بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اقرأ باسم ربك الذي خلق خلق الإنسان من علق اقرأ وربك الأكرم الذي علم بالقلم علم الإنسان ما لم يعلم.
An explanation of Kitab al-Tawheed.
آمن الرسول بما أنزل إليه من ربه والمؤمنون.
Presented by Abu Hasnain Murtaza Khan.
قل هذه سبيلي أدعو إلى الله على بصيرة أنا ومن اتبعني وسبحان الله وما أنا من المشركين.
Produced and distributed by Knowledge, Books and Audio.
A famous hadith that we find, من حلف بغير الله فقد كفر أو أشرك. Whoever swears by other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has committed kufr or committed shirk. And we mentioned that this shirk is the minor shirk. The fifth type of kufr that we find is a kufr of hypocrisy. Nifaq that we find, ذلك بأنهم آمنوا ثم كفروا فطبع على قلوبهم فهم لا يفقهون. These are people who believe ثم كفروا, then they disbelieve, and then upon their hearts are sealed. فَهُمْ لَا يَفْقَهُونَ. And these are people who don't seem to perceive or understand. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا من سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. أما بعد فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. After praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the previous discussion about what is shirk and the various types of shirk, we come to the opposite. What is the opposite of al-Iman? Opposite of al-Iman is none other than al-Kufr. Al-Kufr ta'rifuhu wa anwa'uhu. Kufr, its meaning, its definition, and its various forms of disbelief. The base of kufr is basically lying. Kafra means just to be, also carries the meaning of being ungrateful. So when the Quran talks about a certain group of people, that most of us are unfortunately kafirin linguistically because of the being ungrateful towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. One linguistic meaning, or the linguistic meaning of kufr, lughatan linguistically, is at-taghatiyya was satr, to cover something up. That's the meaning of kufr, to cover something up. And that's why you find that many times, on many occasions, the linguistic meaning has a close link with the technical meaning. In the Quran you find that those people who cover things up, as we find in Surah Al-Hadid, كَمَثَلٍ غَيْثٍ أَعْجَبَ الْكُفَّارِ. The parable of the rain is given أَعْجَبَ الْكُفَّارِ. How does the rain surprise a disbeliever? For a long time I began to think, what is the meaning of kuffar in this verse? وَالْكُفَّارِ بِمَعْنَى الْفَلَّاحُونَ, the farmer. If you go back to Surah Al-Hadid, the meaning of kuffar here is talking about the farmer. كَمَثَلٍ غَيْثٍ أَعْجَبَ الْكُفَّارِ. When the rain comes down, it only surprises one individual, that is the farmer. Because he is the one who lays down the seeds, and then he prays to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to wait for the rain to come down. So here you find that the farmer's task is what? Is to sow the seed, to dig up the ground, to place it in the ground, and then to cover it up. So he said the linguistic meaning of kufr is to conceal something, to cover something up. That's the linguistic meaning of kufr. And kuffar refers to the fallahun, the farmers who conceal the seed inside the ground and then they cover it up. As for the technical meaning of kufr, and now you will find the relationship between the linguistic meaning and the technical meaning. The technical meaning is those people which is diddul iman, the opposite of iman. فَإِنَّ الْكُفْرِ عَدْمُ الْإِيمَانِ بِاللَّهِ وَرُسُلِهِ. Kufr is basically to reject and not to believe in the message or in the belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Even though deep down inside their hearts, deep down in the grain or in the seeds which are inside their hearts, they know this is the truth. But they cover it up with their falsehood. Just like the farmer covers up the seed with his falsehood or with the earth, the disbeliever knows deep down inside his or her heart that Islam is the truth. Submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to follow the teaching, and then to follow the teachings of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Whether this denial in kana ma'u takdhib, whether a person lies, makes a denial of it, or without even making any denial, without even belying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. If it contains any doubt in Islam, any shak, any questioning, any jealousy, any arrogance, any form of pride, any form of following of whims and desires which come inside your heart, is all something that can negate your iman and make you follow the path of kufr. The greatest form of kufr is to deny the belief in Allah and the belief in the Messenger Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and then to lie about it, to attribute a lie to the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And that's how we find many of the Jews and the Christians, they are clear cut in their disbelief. As we find, if my memory serves me correct, on 2 occasions inside the Quran, يَعْرِفُونَهُ كَمَا يَعْرِفُونَ أَبْنَاءَهُم. They know him like they know their own sons. Deep down they know that the Prophet Muhammad is the final messenger. And that's how you find, if you read through the seerah in great detail, you find that some of the Yahud, that when they met each other, and they said to each other, is he the one? Is he the final messenger? And they concluded amongst themselves that he is without a shadow of a doubt, he is the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or he is the one prophesied that will come down upon us. But because, once again, this time because of their kibr, of their arrogance, and because of their hasad, their jealousy, that why should a prophet come through the lineage of Ismail alayhi salam, or through the nomadic people, or through the Bedouins, or through the Arabs, and has not come through us, the Sha'bullah Mukhtar, the chosen people of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so they claim to be. So the various forms of kufr that we find, the first type of kufr that we find, or kufr akbar, that takes you out, these 5 things, or these 5 types of kufr will take you out the fold of al-Islam. The first amongst them is kufr takdhib, is to have the denial of lying about the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or lying about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
ومن أظلم ممن افترى على الله كذبا أو كذب بالحق لما جاءه أليس في جهنم مثوى للكافرين.
Surah Al-Ankabut, the 29th chapter of the Quran, verse number 68. Who is more in oppression or inventing a lie about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, أو كذب بالحق, or denies the truth, or lies about the truth when it has come to him, أَلَيْسَ فِي جَهَنَّمَ مَثْوًى لِلْكَافِرِينَ, is not the final abode or the resting place of Jahannam for these disbelievers. The second type of kufr that we find is kufr al-iba'i wal-istikbar ma'a tasdiq, is a kufr of arrogance and being haughty and pride, when deep down you know that this is the truth, or this is a reality or a fact. And the greatest person who made, the individual who made this refusal of arrogance and pride, is none other than Iblis. وَإِذْ قُلْنَا لِلْمَلَائِكَةِ اسْجُدُوا لِآدَمَ فَسَجَدُوا إِلَّا إِبْلِيسَ أَبَى وَاسْتَكْبَرَ وَكَانَ مِنَ الْكَافِرِينَ. أَبَى وَاسْتَكْبَرَ, he refused, وَاسْتَكْبَرَ, and became amongst the haughty and the arrogant ones. وَكَانَ مِنَ الْكَافِرِينَ, and as amongst those people who are the deniers, who do not believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The second type of kufr that we find is a kufr of shak, وَهُوَ كُفْرُ الظَّنِّ, the kufr of doubt, to have some doubt about what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala creates, what He does and what He will do. As we find inside Surah Al-Kahf, the verse is talking about the individual, وَدَخَلَ جَنَّتُهُ وَهُوَ ظَالِمٌ لِنَفْسِهِ, he entered into the garden and he was transgressing his own soul whilst in a state of pride and disbelief, and just to himself. And what did he state? مَا أَظُنُّ أَن تَبِيدَ هَذِهِ أَبَدًا, I don't think that this will ever come to an end. That the garden that I possess will come to an end, is what this individual stated. وَمَا أَظُنُّ السَّاعَةَ قَائِمًا, and I don't even think the hour will come. So this is kufr of having doubt or negating, doubting that the hour will come, or doubting that any harm will come upon that individual. And then he claims to be that indeed, if I'm brought back to my Lord, I shall surely find better than this when I return to Him. And his companion said to him that, do you disbelieve in Him who created you out of dust? So the companion is trying to remind him that, are you trying to commit kufr, disbelief, through this doubt of yours, trying to question that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala cannot bring me back to life, and even if I do go back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then I will be in a better state than I'm in at the moment. Then we find the fourth type of kufr is kufr al-irad, the kufr of turning away from Islam, turning away from the teachings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَالَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا عَمَّا أُنذِرُوا مُعْرِضُونَ, those people, those who reject faith, turn away from that whereof they are warned. Those are the people who are the mu'ridun. They are kuffar, those people who turn away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, from the teachings that are sent down. The fifth type of kufr that we find is a kufr of hypocrisy. Nifaq that we find, ذَلِكَ بِأَنَّهُمْ آمَنُوا ثُمَّ كَفَرُوا فَتُبِعَ عَلَى قُلُوبِهِمْ فَهُمْ لَا يَفْقَهُونَ. These are people who believe, ثُمَّ كَفَرُوا, then they disbelieve, and then upon their hearts are sealed, فَهُمْ لَا يَفْقَهُونَ, and these are people who don't seem to perceive or understand. So these are the five major types of kufr which take you out of the fold of Islam. That if a person falls into any of these five categories, that person has become a clear-cut disbeliever in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The second type of kufr that we find is a kufr asghar. The minor type of kufr does not take you out of the fold of Islam. وَهُوَ الْكُفْرُ الْعَمَلِي, it is the kufr of your actions. The previous are your convictions that you have inside your heart, that statements that you make, doubts that you hold and you present them or you state them, that will make you into a disbeliever. And these are actions that you do which do not make you into a disbeliever. وَهِيَ لَا تَصِلْ إِلَى حَدِّ الْكُفْرِ الْأَكْبَرِ, and these sins do not take you to the major kufr. And these aspects of the minor kufr are none other, as some of the ulama highlight, they are وَهُوَ الذُّنُوب, they are the sins that a person carries out, or the statements that a person makes. That's why we go back to the beginning that we stated, one of the meanings of kufr is kufrun ni'mah, to be ungrateful. So as we mentioned in the beginning, that this is one of the linguistic meanings, to be ungrateful. And I hear the ulama highlight that this is the minor kufr. To be ungrateful is a type of kufr, ingratitude towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَضَرَبَ اللَّهُ مَثَلًا قَرْيَةً كَانَتْ آمِنًا, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala throws a parable of a village, كَانَتْ آمِنًا, a people who are at peace, مُطْمَئِنَّا, and at state of tranquility and rest. يَأْتِيهَا رِزْقُهَا رَغَدًا, and its rizq, its provision comes in abundance. مِنْ كُلِّ مَكَانٍ, from every single place. فَكَفَرَتْ بِأَنْعُمِ اللَّهِ, and then what happened to these people? They became ungrateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is a Qarya people in a state of tranquility, a state of peace and rest. In abundance, raghada, in abundance fruit and provision used to come to these people. But what happened to these people? فَكَفَرَتْ بِأَنْعُمِ اللَّهِ, they denied the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then the punishment was opened upon these people. So that's a type of kufr. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives you something, you are ungrateful towards it, you're ungrateful towards that blessing given to you, you have become an ungrateful person who carries the minor kufr inside your heart. Likewise, you find many ahadith which use the word kufr. And the majority of the ulama highlight that all of these ahadith which use the word kufr goes back to the minor kufr. Some of these ahadith that the Shaykh mentions, yani sababu Muslim fusuq. To curse a Muslim is rebelliousness, a type of fisq. وَقِتَالُهُ kufr, and to kill him is kufr. Now here the ulama discuss what does it mean to kill him is kufr. If we took the first type of kufr, that means if you kill a Muslim, you're a disbeliever. But this does not apply here. This is the minor kufr. To insult a Muslim is fisq, is rebelliousness. Sababul Muslim, to insult him, to swear at him, is a type of rebelliousness. And to kill him is a type of kufr. So to kill another Muslim does not make you a kafir, does not make you a disbeliever. It falls in under the meaning of the minor kufr. Likewise, you find another hadith, لا ترجعوا بعدي كفارا. Don't turn after me into disbelievers, kuffara. What does it mean? The meaning of this hadith is, as we find the rest of the wording, that you will begin to slay each other. You will begin to fight one another. So at this state we find that the meaning of kufr is not one that these people will become disbelievers, but it's a meaning these people are ungrateful towards one another. Don't turn after me into kuffar, hitting each other on the necks, in other words trying to kill one another. A famous hadith that we find, which we mentioned at the beginning, Man halafa bi ghayrillah faqad kafara wa ashraka. Whoever swears by other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has committed kufr or committed shirk. And we mentioned that this shirk is the minor shirk. To swear by other than the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not make you a disbeliever. And likewise, is also a form of kufr. So we find that to enter into Islam, there is certain aspects that a person comes into Islam. And likewise, to take a person out of Islam, there has to be great certainty. Through a person's words, as Shaykh Islam Ibn Taymiyyah means, he states that not every single action of kufr makes you into a kafir. So a person could be doing actions of kufr, could be doing certain actions of clear-cut kufr, but you can never ever label that person as being a kafir. And that's why you find in the hadith, until you see kufr al-bawaha, clear-cut kufr, that a person comes out and denounces Islam, says that another methodology is better to follow than the Sharia, or abandons the prayer in public. That's why many of these people who claim to be the umara and claim to be the leaders, that's why they come out in public and they pray. Because they're well aware of these ahadith, that the minute they begin to abandon their prayer, it becomes clear-cut kufr al-bawaha, clear-cut kufr of their actions. Then many of the ulama will stand up against them. So that's why they offer these prayers, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows the batin, the hidden aspects of these people, showing in front of the television that they're offering their prayers and being filmed in offering their prayers. As for the sir, the hidden aspects, that only lies with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala about why these people are carrying out these actions in a public manner. And that's why we find that only from the matters of the heart, only lie with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As we find the famous hadith of Usama ibn Zayd, that when he was in a state of battle, and then the disbeliever stated to him, said the testification, he became a believer. And Usama ibn Zayd, still after hearing the words of the testification, still lifted his sword and he killed him. And when the Prophet Muhammad learned of this, and he rebuked him, and he felt ashamed of what he done, he said he only said those words because of the fear of my sword on top of his head. And the Prophet Muhammad stated to him, did you rip open his heart? Did you rip open his chest and see what was inside his heart? And he rebuked him, that even if it could be that he said these words out of the fear of the sword, you killed an innocent individual. You killed him and you had no right, no justification. So what people hold inside their heart, we cannot question that. That only belongs with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So to label another individual as a kafir or a disbeliever is very, very dangerous. That this is a skill and a tool that only belongs to the specialist people. The same thing, a person becomes into Islam through certainty in statements. And likewise what takes them out of Islam is certainty through the ulama, that they see certain actions or certain statements that the person makes, and they do not retract those statements or those actions. And even those ahadith that talk about the person harming another Muslim and saying things about another Muslim, even in the Quran we find that when you fight with one another, the Quran clearly talks about that the other person is still a Muslim. It's quite strange that we differ with each other on issues of fiqh, of issues of madhab, and we begin to fall apart. The Quran talks about in a state of warfare, how another Muslim calls upon another Muslim.
وَإِن طَائِفَتَانِ مِنَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ اقْتَتَلُوا فَأَصْلِحُوا بَيْنَهُمَا.
If two parties of the Muslims, and the word used here is not Muslims, وَإِن طَائِفَتَانِ مِنَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ, if two groups of the believers fight. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't mention if two Muslims are fighting amongst themselves. If two groups of the believers are fighting one another, then فَأَصْلِحُوا بَيْنَهُمَا, then you should seek reconciliation between the two groups. This is in a state of warfare between two of the believing parties. And their wars were probably in a just cause, in seeking retribution. If you read through the seerah, or you read through history about the wars, or the battle of Jamal, the war of the camel, even though the stance of Ahlul Sunnah is to be silent about these things, but their wars were justified to seek the killers of certain of the companions, or in specific of Uthman ibn Affan radiallahu ta'ala an. So they were justified in their battles and their warfare. As for the warfare that we find the Muslims indulging at the moment, they're not even based upon Islam, but on personal interests and personal desires. Likewise we find in the same surah, إِنَّمَا الْمُؤْمِنُونَ إِخْوَةً فَأَصْلِحُوا بَيْنَ أَخَوَيْكُمْ. Indeed, the believers are none other than brethren. فَأَصْلِحُوا بَيْنَ أَخَوَيْكُمْ. Then seek retribution between your brothers. And here you find that even to the extent that you can even lie to the second party to seek retribution. On the occasion, as we find, you can even lie to your wife. If your wife doesn't cook something good, you can lie to say that there was nothing wrong with that. And that's allowed. And same thing to go to another brother. If you read some of the works, that is a dispute between two brothers, to go to one brother and say, you know your brother, your akh, he said this and this about you. He said these good things about you. And the brother will say, well, I'm surprised he said that about me. You can go to the other brother and say, he said this and this about you. It's allowed in this stance to make sulh, to make agreement. So when they face one another, they feel content that, did you really say these words about me? And did I really say these words about you? This is what Islam encourages, to bring people together, not to break up people, and to foster hatred between the Muslim ummah. And likewise we find in conclusion that the kufr, these two types of kufr, the kufr al-akbar wa kufr al-asghar, there is a distinction that we need to remember. That a person who falls into the major kufr, yakhruj min al-millah, is out of the fold of Islam, wa yahbat al-a'mal, and all of his or actions become null and void. As for the minor type of kufr, that person does not go out of Islam, but that person is exposed to the punishment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In sha'a adzabahu wa in sha'a ghafara lahu. If he wants, he can punish him, and if he wants, he can forgive him. So if a person commits kufr in front of your face, nobody should say to them, you are mukhalladun finnar, you are going to enter into the hellfire forever, because this is the way of the Khawarij. The Khawarij believe whoever commits a ma'siyah, whoever commits a disobedience, فَإِنَّ هَذَا صَاحِبْ مُخَلَّدًا فِي النَّارِ أَبَدًا. The person who commits a major mistake in their life, that person is forever going to reside in the hellfire forever. This is a deviation from Ahlul Sunnah. This is a deviation because this is a belief of the Khawarij. They believe that you commit a major sin, you become a disbeliever. The stance of Ahlul Sunnah is, a person who commits an action of disbelief, that person has exposed themselves to the punishment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If he wants subhanahu wa ta'ala, he can punish him or her, and if he wants subhanahu wa ta'ala, in his infinite justice and mercy, he can forgive that individual. That's the distinction between major kufr and the minor kufr. The second thing that we find is that the major kufr will enter you into the fire forever. You will remain inside the fire forever. As for the minor kufr, then that person will enter into the fire for a short time, or even be forgiven and never ever enter into the fire at all. And likewise we find that the kufr, you show clear animosity حَتَّى تُؤْمِنُوا بِاللَّهِ وَحْدًا, until you believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala all on His own. That's the essence of our relationship between the kuffar, disbelievers. That there is animosity between us and you, without any oppression. That's the word that we need to bear in mind. But the distinction is that we don't oppress them, they oppress us. And as for the person who commits minor kufr, then our love and our hatred is on a scale. As all of the classical ulama, including Shaykh Islam ibn Taymiyyah, that your love towards them is on a justice, and your kufr towards them is on a level as well. That their level of kufr should not make you commit atrocities upon them. So a person could be committing a sin, committing kufr. You disassociate yourself from them according to that kufr. And likewise, you love them according to that which love should be shown to them. But as for what we find in our society today, that a person of ma'siyah, of disobedience, of bid'ah, or of innovation, or of kufr, then there is total alienation from that individual. It is going against the principles of Ahlul Sunnah. Your love is on a degree that should be just, and your hatred should be upon a degree which is just. So if you see a person committing kufr, which is a principle of the Sharia, then do not make him a kafir until hujjah is established. Until clear-cut evidence is established for that individual. And who will make that hujjah? Who will make that evidence today upon who is a kafir and who is not a kafir? It is not the likes of us, once again, to label people as a believer, or label person as a disbeliever. And then we find Nifaq Hypocrisy. And once again, looking at the linguistic meaning of hypocrisy and the technical meaning of hypocrisy. Hypocrisy is a verbal noun, min nafiq, and one of the meanings of the munafiq is أحد المخارج اليربوع من جحره فإنه طلب من واحد حرب إلى الآخر وخرج منه. Is a parable of an animal that lives inside a hole, like a lizard or a rat or a mouse. In specific, a lizard. That the lizard will burrow out a hole in the ground. And when the animal comes to attack that lizard or that creature, and it enters into that hole, the lizard will escape from another hole that is behind it, without that animal that enters into the hole knowing where has the animal escaped. That's the linguistic meaning of taken from the word min al-nafq, from a tunnel. That's the linguistic meaning. Escaping through a disguise. A person, the animal, beast comes through one place, and then the animal escapes without that beast knowing. Now listen to what is the technical meaning of a munafiq, and see the resemblance between the linguistic meaning and the technical meaning. The technical meaning we find لأنه يدخل في الشر من باب ويخرج من باب آخر. He enters into Islam through one door, shows his Islam, ويخرج من باب آخر, and leaves through the other door. The external door, he shows he's a mu'min, he's a believer. But a door behind that veil, that person is deceiving, is full of deception, and leaves through that door, is the meaning for munafiq. And we find that these people who are the munafiqeen, some of them enter into the disguise of Islam. Enter into Islam to show people they are Muslims, to throw some doubts in Islam, to cause destruction in al-Islam. إِنَّ الْمُنَافِقِينَ هُمُ الْفَاسِقُونَ. The hypocrites, they are the fasiqun. They are the rebellious people in society. Why? لِأَنَّهُمْ خَارِجُونَ مِنَ الشَّرْعِ. These people are out of the fold of al-Islam. And that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made these people more evil than the kafirin. At least the kafir, clear cut, he exposes himself. He says to you, I don't believe in your religion. As for the munafiq, sharran min al-kafir, is more evil and dangerous than the disbeliever. Innal munafiqina fi ad-darki li asfali min an-nar. And that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala states that the munafiq is in the lowest part of the hellfire, in the pit of the hellfire. That you read through what some of the ulama have discussed, and Ibn Rajab in his works about talking about the hellfire, about the levels or the grades of the hellfire. That the pit or the lowest level is for the munafiqeen. That even above them will be the kuffar, but the lowest pit will belong to these disbelievers. Why? إن المنافقين يُخَادِعُونَ اللَّهَ وَهُوَ خَادِعُهُم. Indeed, the munafiqeen, they try to trick Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They try to be treacherous. They try to plot and plan against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَهُوَ خَادِعُهُم. And indeed, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tricks them or overcomes the tricks that they try to present. يُخَادِعُونَ اللَّهَ وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا. They plot and they plan against those, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and those who believe. وَمَا يَخْدَعُونَ إِلَّا أَنفُسَهُمْ وَمَا يَشْعُرُونَ. And these people are only planning and plotting against their own selves. وَمَا يَشْعُرُونَ. And they cannot even perceive it. فِي قُلُوبِهِمْ مَرَضٌ فَزَادَهُمُ اللَّهُ مَرَضًا. In these people there's a sickness inside their heart. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has increased this sickness. وَلَهُمْ عَذَابٌ أَلِيمٌ بِمَا كَانُوا يَكْذِبُونَ. And indeed these people will have a severe chastisement بِمَا كَانُوا يَكْذِبُونَ, because of that which they used to belie. So you find these people displaying themselves even at times as dedicated Muslims, but really trying to destroy al-Islam. And once again that we find al-nifaq is of two types. Nifaq al-i'tiqadi, the nifaq, the hypocrisy of belief, and the nifaq, the hypocrisy of actions. The first type of nifaq that we find is the nifaq of hypocrisy, or the nifaq of i'tiqad, of belief. That these people that we find amongst them, that these are the people who will be in the lowest part of the hellfire. And if you read through what are the sifat, what are the characteristics of the munafiqeen, what are the characteristics of the hypocrites, you find these people adamul iman, rejection of iman, wal istihza'u bid-deen, to mock and to belittle the deen. And that's why, as a side point that we find, al-istihza'u bi-sunnah kufr, to mock the sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad is a form of kufr, is a form of disbelief. And Shaykh al-Islam Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab, in his 10 things of Nawaqidul Islam, highlights that these are the one things that make you a disbeliever. That if you find people looking down upon the sunnah and laughing and joking upon the sunnah, then these people need to be warned, because this is a type of kufr. Likewise you find amongst the sifat, وَالْمَيْلِ بِالْكُلِّيَّةِ إِلَىٰ أَعْدَاءِ الدِّينِ, to seek and lean towards the people who are the enemies of Islam is a sign of hypocrisy. No matter what people talk about at the moment, that when you begin to show your loyalties towards the disbelievers and you lean towards them, no matter what your statements are in public, but this is a sign of hypocrisy. To take these people as allies, as friends, and to lean towards these people is a sign of none other than hypocrisy in one's belief. لِمُشَارَكَتِهِمْ لَهُمْ فِي عَدَاوَةِ الْإِسْلَامِ, to go gain or to be with these people, especially when these people show their hatred towards al-Islam, is very dangerous. That at one stage that we find that certain people have got a war on terror, a war against Islam, and then we open up our shores for these people, is a form of nifaq, is a form of hypocrisy. Likewise we find the appearance of hypocrisy will appear when Islam is powerful. That when these people cannot destroy Islam, when they cannot fight against Islam, you will find the munafiqeen will enter into Islam. These people will pretend to be Muslims. And don't be deceived when you read through these people, and even if you look at photographic evidence of some of the mustashriqeen, some of the Orientalists, and some of the munafiqeen. There are people, الَّذِينَ يَحْتَمُّونَ بِسُنَّةِ. There are people who preserve the sunnah in their attire, in the way that they dress, in their lugha, in their language, in their statements that they make. So don't be deceived that the signs of a munafiq is a person who wears a 3-piece suit or is clean shaven. That is not the sign of hypocrisy. There may be nifaqul amali, there may be a nifaq of hypocrisy, but some of the greatest of the munafiqeen, you will be surprised in the things that they wrote, in the actions that they've done, and the words that they've said to people to show that they are amongst the believers. So this concept that we find that nifaq is the way that a person dresses is incorrect. It is i'tiqad. It is the belief which you disseminate from this person. It is their hub, their love and their bughd, and their hatred which will come out at a certain stage in their writing and in their sermons and in their speech, that it will show alleviation, it will show love towards the kuffar, love towards the disbelievers. وَإِنْ كَانَ لَبِسَ بِالْعِمَامَةِ أو لَبِسَ بِالْجُبَّةِ. Whether this person dresses with the turban or dresses with the Arab thawb, that is not the principle here. It is the i'tiqad that the person shows love and deception. Many of these people have wrote against the works of jihad. As we find in the subcontinent, these people, they wrote that the jihad against the British Empire is haram. That's what these people wrote. They wrote this in their works. And that is the contention that became between Ahlul Sunnah and these people. When these people began to write these works, that we love these people. They've showed khair to us whilst they lived in our countries. It's dangerous. And that is the same methodology that many people are following at the moment. That why do you mention these words, or why do you say these things when they are showing khair fil Khalij? They're showing goodness in the Arab Emirates. They're showing goodness in Hijaz, in the Arabian Peninsula. Why do you raise your voice against these people? Is once again following the way of none other than the munafiqeen. The people are beginning to fail to understand what are the principles of Ahlul Sunnah. What are the principles of what make us so great in our principles, in our aqaid, and our belief that we hold. And that's how we find وَقَدْ حَتَكَ اللَّهُ اسْتَارَ هَؤُلَاءِ الْمُنَافِقِينَ كَشَفَ عَنْهُمْ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has exposed these munafiqeen, has exposed these people and the sifat that these people hold. And the greatest evidence to show that He has exposed them, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is none other than Surah Al-Baqarah. Sifatul Munafiqeen li Ibn Qayyim al-Jawziyah. Descriptions of the munafiqeen. He brings this great beautiful istinbat, this great in the extraction from Surah Al-Baqarah that we read on many occasions, that we don't fail to perceive the words of Ar-Rahman, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He mentioned فَذَكَرَ فِي الْمُؤْمِنِينَ أَرْبَعَ آيَاتٍ. In the beginning we find the sifat of the mu'mineen in 4 ayat. 4 ayat of Surah Al-Baqarah in the beginning talk about the sifat of the mu'mineen, who believe in the ghaib, etc. and those people who preserve their prayers and they spend that which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given them. Then we find وَفِي الْكُفَّارِ آيَتَيْنِ. And about the disbelievers, only 2 ayat are mentioned. This is the beginning of the Quran after Surah Al-Fatiha. 4 ayat highlight sifatul mu'mineen. These are the characteristics that we should hold on to. Then the following 2 ayat talk about the sifat or the signs of the people who are the disbelievers. And then the following 13 ayat, the following 13 ayat talk about none other than the munafiqeen. Strange it is that probably you read this surah on many occasions, that we fail to perceive that why is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala spending 13 ayat to highlight who are the munafiqeen. All about them has been mentioned. Summun bukmun umyun fahum la yarji'un. They are deaf, dumb and blind, and these people will never ever return. And another place, fahum la ya'qilun. And when it occurs in the Quran that these people will not perceive and understand, this is talking about the kuffar. And as for the munafiqeen, then they are people fahum la yarji'un. They are people who will never ever return back. And read through the parables that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about these people, that every time they see the lightning, they place their يَجْعَلُونَ صَابِعَهُمْ, they place their fingertips, thrust their fingertips inside their ears. They are scared of everything that is happening around them, the lightning that is happening around them, the fear that has entered into the hearts of the munafiqeen, that they are fearful of death will come upon them. So the main things, sittatu anwa, 6 things which make you a clear-cut hypocrite. The first thing, belying the Messenger Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, belying him and denying him. Second thing, takdhib ba'd ma ja'a bihi ar-Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to belie part of that which the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam came with. So you find that a person may do certain actions, but then they belie certain other actions. This is a form of nifaq, a form of hypocrisy. Like I defined bughdur Rasul, to hate the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is a sign of hypocrisy. And even to, as we find the 4th thing, to hate some of the things that he came with. Sometimes you find a person may say these words, why do we have to wear the veil? Why do we have to wear the hijab? Why do we have to pray Fajr at this time? Or why do we have to do this action? This is a sign of nifaq, a sign of sickness inside your heart, to question and to hate things that the Prophet Muhammad came with. The whole of the shar is khair. The whole of the Islamic law is goodness. Maqasidu sharia. Whole chapters and volumes have been written about the purpose of the Islamic law. From whatever angle you look at, they write that the maqasidu sharia, the purpose of the sharia is to preserve the 5 things. One's deen, one's mind, one's self, one's nafs, one's mal, one's ird, one's own personal chastity. And Islam came and preserved every single aspect of a believer in all of these 5 things. Likewise, we find the 5th thing is persistence in mocking the deen of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When these people begin to write, these people who they claim to be mufakkirin, thinkers about Islam, who always write in their columns, there is no real essence in the hijab. The hijab is inside the heart. Islam, you've taken the peels and the shreds of Islam. You find many of the revivalists, they talk about, you people only stick to qasr thiyab, the shortening of the thawb, wa ifa'u lihya, the growing of the beard, and the wearing of the khimar. You've restricted to the peels of the orange, is what they write in their works, these mufakkirin. As far as the sharia is concerned, there is no peeling, there is no peel of the sharia. Every single thing of the sharia is important. Yes, there are aspects of the sharia which come on a grading of tasks that you have to do. No Muslim should ever feel that this is a minor aspect and just throw it away. فَإِنَّ هَذَا اللُّبْ, or إِنَّ هَذَا الْقِشَرْ, or this is just a peel that needs to be thrown away. Everything is taken into steps. And this da'wah is a dangerous da'wah that we find at the moment. This is none other than the da'wah of the modernistic people who believe that living in this society, we should drop certain things. If religious people, after a seminar or discussion about hijab, are making these statements that living in this society, we should remove the veil because there's hardship. If this is religious people are debating that there's calamities upon us at the moment, so I should remove my hijab because these mufakkirin, these thinkers are telling us that when there's hardship in society, you should take the easy approach. Uqsimu billahi al-azim, there is no hardship in this society at the moment. Swear by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there is no hardship. If you read the works of the fuqaha, that when what is muttar, what is hardship, halqul lihya, to shave, to shurbul khamar, aklul khinzir, to eat haram, to drink haram, what is the time of ittirar? What is the time of hardship? The time of hardship is none other than sayf ala ra'sika, a sword which is placed upon your head, a gun that is placed upon your head, and the trigger is about to be pulled, on a state of death. At the moment, walillahi alhamd, no Muslim in this country is facing that type of atrocity. No Muslim in this country is facing that type of atrocity that they need to throw the veil away because I'm in a state of hardship. Throw away my deen. Throw it away because I'm facing hardships. And we should thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala we are not facing hardships. And we should be awake and listen to those people who have existed in Guantanamo Bay at the moment, irrespective of what got them there or what they believed in. But ask these people the hardship and the tortures that they went through, or the people at the Muslim Ummah at the moment, the hardship that they are going through, that they are alleviated for them to remove certain things. But as for these people who are living in this society, this call of modernism, that we should become easygoing in this society and remove the veil, and remove the Islamic shi'ar of Islam, the symbols of Islam, we should remove them to seek some form of common ground with these people, is a da'wah which is very dangerous. These people will never ever respect you, no matter how much you try to incorporate yourself within them. Lakum dinukum waliya din. We have our deen, we have our shi'ar, we have our symbols, and we should cling to them. The only thing that we need to do is refine and retune ourselves, and to show the glorious nature of Islam through the way that we behave. Not by thinking by the way that these people dress and the way that these people behave. The 6th thing that we find, al-karahiyatu li-intisar din al-Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And this is a very important point. To dislike that the deen of the Prophet Muhammad should become victorious is a sign of hypocrisy. Nifaqul i'tiqadi. That every time believers become victorious, that in your heart you despise this. or you question this. How can they become victorious? This is a sign of hypocrisy. You should rejoice in your heart. A good feeling should come inside your heart that they become successful. But if you find karahiyah, if you find disliking towards this and questioning towards this, this begins to fall into a branch of nifaq and of hypocrisy. The second type of hypocrisy that we find is nifaqul amali, the nifaq of actions, which unfortunately all of us suffer from this type of hypocrisy. But one thing that we should bear in mind, that the ulama have written that this nifaq of amali, a person should be very, very careful of it. Because إذ استمر في هذه الحالة, if you continue in this action, وإن كثر صار بسببه منافقا خالصا, if you carry on in this minor form of hypocrisy, you will become a pure hypocrite. You will become a clear hypocrite. What is the evidence of this? The evidence is from none other than the hadith of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. أربع من كن فيه كان منافقا خالصا. 4 things, if they're found in a believer or found in an individual, كان منافقا خالصا, that person is a pure hypocrite. Now everyone should check themselves. What are these 4 things? These 4 things are not the 6 things that we talked about before, the major things. These 4 things are وَمَنْ كَانَتْ فِيهِ خَصْلَةٌ مِّنْهُنَّ كَانَ فِيهِ خَصْلَةٌ مِّن نِفَاقٍ حَتَّى يَدَعَهَا. Whoever finds one of these things in his or her heart has got a khasla, has got an attribute of nifaq, until that person leaves that attribute of nifaq. The first thing that we find is that tumina khana. If you're trusted with something, you betray your trust. Is a sign of hypocrisy. وَإِذَا حَدَثَ كَذِبًا. If you speak, you always tell a lie. Every time you talk, you lie. وَإِذَا عَهَدَ غَدِرًا. If you're given with a covenant or a trust, you betray that trust. You're not trustworthy in what you are doing. وَإِذَا خَاصَمَ فَجِرًا. And if you argue with someone, you become rude and arrogant and transgressing and rebellious in your behavior. It's a check for every single believer. Sometimes this can happen to any individual. That's the way that Shurah hadith have explained this hadith. أربع من كن فيه كان منافقا خالصا. These 4 things, if they exist in you throughout your life, throughout your character, once in a while, a person may get angry and become abusive. Once in a while, a person may give her time and betray that timing. Once in a time, something may be placed in your trust, you don't fulfill that trust. That is allowed, as the ulama have mentioned. But if it becomes continuous, regular in your habit, then you have become a person who contains one point of hypocrisy. Point is that some people would do these actions. But if these actions continue in your life and you become known or notorious for these type of actions, then you contain a sign or a symbol of hypocrisy. And if all of these 4 things come into your normal character and behavior, then you are a clear-cut hypocrite. And we find that many people will look at these things and also fail to understand that وَيَسْتَحِقُّ مِنَ الثَّوَابِ وَالْإِقَابِ بِحَسْبِ مَا قَامَ بِهِ مِنْ مُوجِبَاتٍ. That this person is open, no matter what they do, that punishment will come upon this individual for the actions that they commit. And unfortunately, in the actions that we commit, one of the biggest things that we find, which is a sign of hypocrisy, putting these things aside, is التكاسل عن الصلاة مع الجماعة. That to be lazy in joining the congregational prayer. The fiqh of Imam Abu Hanifa rahmatullah alayh, that they find it, that it is an obligation to join the congregation. And even the Hanbali fiqh highlights that they go to the opinion that the person has to be there to offer their prayer. And some of them even write that their prayer has become null and void. If you do not pray in congregation, there is no prayer for you. To such a degree, some of the fuqaha have highlighted this point. Now here we should remember this point, that this is a sign of nifaq. At-takasul, to become lazy and to remain away from salatul jama'ah. We're not talking about praying on your own. We're talking about staying away from the congregational prayer is a sign of hypocrisy. And nifaqul amali, in your actions, that a person is staying away from the congregational prayer, because this is min sifat al-munafiqeen. This is from the signs or the sifat of the hypocrites. And you find even the seerah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and you find a statement of Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, nobody stayed away from salatul jama'ah except for the person kana maridan أو كان معلوما للنفاق, or a person who is known for the hypocrisy, that even the munafiqeen is quite strange, would be there for Salatul Subh or for Salatul Fajr. It's something to bear in mind, that the hypocrites would be there for Salatul Fajr, so they are not exposed in the society of Medina that we are amongst a bunch of hypocrites. Reflect that upon the state of this ummah at the moment. As the Jewish man stated in a debate that he had with a Muslim, the Muslim said that, why don't you fear us anymore? He said to him that, how many people come to Salatul Jum'ah? He said, the masjid is mamlu, is full. He said, the day that once again, that in Salatul Fajr, the masjid is full like Salatul Jum'ah, that is a day that will fear you once again. Until that day, there is no fear that we have from you people, because you people are just busy sleeping. Wallahu al-musta'an. وقال Ibn Abi Mulaika, he stated, أدركت 30 من أصحاب الرسول صلى الله عليه وسلم كلهم يخافون النفاق على نفسه. I met 30 of the companions of the Prophet Muhammad صلى الله عليه وسلم, and all of them feared hypocrisy amongst themselves. This is the Sahaba رضي الله تعالى عنهم أجمعين. They feared hypocrisy amongst themselves. We're talking about not nifaqul i'tiqadi. We're not talking about hypocrisy in their belief, if that's what some people are thinking. We're talking about the hypocrisy of their actions. That why are they doing these actions? If this is the Sahaba, that they feared this type of hypocrisy, then how far are we 1426 years on? How far are we? What will be our level of hypocrisy? That 13 of them feared hypocrisy, and the masses of the Muslim Ummah don't even fear hypocrisy at the moment. And the cure of nifaq is none other than ikhlas. Is to always ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to clear that individual, to bring that person closer towards sincerity, and to stick to the sunnah in everything that that individual does. And thirdly, that we find to remain away from the discussion of the people of Ahlul Bid'ah, the people of innovation, the people of ahwa, of false desires and movements of people who want to go against the teachings of the Quran and Sunnah of the Prophet, so that a person does not enter into some form of hypocrisy. The difference between Nifaq al-Akbar wa Nifaq al-Asghar, between the major hypocrisy and the minor hypocrisy. And Nifaq al-Akbar yakhruj min al-millah, that the major hypocrisy will take you out of the fold of Islam. The hypocrisy of belief, questioning the messengership, hatred for the messenger, hatred for the victory of Islam, that will take you out of Islam. As for nifaq al-amali, the hypocrisy of your actions does not take you out of the fold of Islam. And the nifaq al-akbar, ikhtilaf al-sir wal-alaniya. The major hypocrisy is a distinction between the hidden and the external, the interior and the external. It is a difference between the two. Fil i'tiqad, inside one's belief, that inside you hold one belief, but outside you show another belief. As for nifaq al-asghar, the minor hypocrisy, اختلاف السر والعلانية في العمل دون الاعتقاد. That inside you have a strong belief, but your actions are opposite to your belief. So that's what makes you fall into the minor hypocrisy. Whereas the major hypocrisy, your external statements and your internal belief are both the same. Whereas it's minor hypocrisy, you may have a strong iman, but sometimes out of weakness or just out of relaxation, a person may make certain actions of hypocrisy. So that's why they fall into the minor form of hypocrisy. And النفاق الأكبر لا يصدر من مؤمن. As for the major hypocrisy, will never ever come out of a believer. A believer will never ever fall into the major form of hypocrisy. وأما النفاق الأصغر فقد يصدر من مؤمن. As for the minor type of hypocrisy, then every single believer can fall into that. The fourth thing that we find, أن النفاق الأكبر في الغالب لا يتوب صاحبه ولو تاب فقد اختلف في قبول توبته عند الحاكم. As for the person who commits major hypocrisy, very rarely does that individual repent from what they state. And even if they do repent, then the ulama have differed upon whether to accept that individual's repentance from the person who has committed that type of nifaq. As for the person who is the minor hypocrisy, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can forgive that individual because of that action that they may have committed. As we mentioned, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Ghafur Rahim. And likewise we find that the person may have certain things inside their heart, and as long as the person does not utter them, as we find certain narrations about the Sahaba, that we have certain statements that we feel inside our heart, but we don't utter them, we don't say them. And he said, ذَلِكَ الصَّرِيحُ الْإِيمَانِ, that is the most clear form of Iman. That sometimes shubahat, shahawat, desires and doubts could come inside your mind, questioning about Islam, questioning the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, questioning something about the Sunnah. As long as you don't utter them, you don't follow them, then that is a sign of Iman. That you don't follow these shubahat, you don't follow these false desires or these false conceptions that come inside your mind, but you still force and battle yourself within and you cling to Iman. That is a sign of an Iman. And that's how we find that these people, as Shaykh al-Islam mentions, وَقَدْ اخْتُلِفَ الْعُلَمَاء فِي قُبُولِ تَوْبَتِهِمْ فِي الظَّاهِرِ, because, and we find that the ulama have differed upon accepting about their tawbah. Why do they differ about accepting their tawbah? Because these people profess Islam. Because all the time he's been professing, or she's been professing Islam, has been praying, has been fasting, has been performing Hajj, has been doing everything. So now it becomes, how can you accept this person's tawbah? When all throughout their life, this talk about Nifaq Hypocrisy, all through their life, they've been belying something of the messengership, they've been writing about it, whatever they've been doing. So how can the ulama state, how can we accept this person's tawbah now? Because on one stage they're pretending to be a Muslim throughout their life. So now they could be doing what? They could be lying that they've committed tawbah. So the ulama differ about accepting that individual's tawbah. And that's how you find the people who are known as Ahlul Shia. The Shia have this form of concept of belief which is known as taqiyya, of deception and deceiving people. They are allowed, as far as they are concerned, to lie to people of Ahlul Sunnah. They are allowed to lie. This is the principle of their belief. To be taqiyya, to lie to people, is part and principle of their belief. And this is a principle which is taken only from munafiqeen. That they believe this, that you can lie to people or deceive people, but inside you hold another belief within yourself. And that's why we find in the Quran, أَوَلَا يَرَوْنَ أَنَّهُمْ يُفْتَنُونَ فِي كُلِّ عَامٍ مَرَّةً أَوْ مَرَّتَيْنِ ثُمَّ لَا يَتُوبُونَ وَلَا هُمْ يَذَّكَّرُونَ. Do you not see these people, they are tried once or twice in a year, ثُمَّ لَا يَتُوبُونَ وَلَا هُمْ يَذَّكَّرُونَ. Taib, inshallah. We'll stop there, inshallah, with that discussion about what is Kufr and Nifaq. And inshallah, we'll continue, inshallah, next week with some other terminology. جزاكم الله خير. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك. أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك.